That's right, people. We brought back the FightHype Live official theme song because we're talking about something so serious here from the high-tech, elaborate studios here in Las Vegas, Nevada for FightHype Live. We're not talking about Usyk Dubois. We're not talking about Canelo versus Crawford potentially, or Canelo Charlo September 30th. No. Talking about something maybe even more important than that. Logan Paul and Dillon Danis and KSI and Tommy Fury. It's so important. It's such a serious moment here on FightHype Live that I had to go ahead and bring back the theme music. We haven't used it in a couple of lives, but this one set the right precedent to bring it back. So, without further ado, hello and welcome everybody to FightHype Live. Our first comment of the day in the live chat is, anyone who likes Logan Paul likes Adam22, who also likes Logan, and that this ain't no real boxing. Well, Michael Winchester, on that note, today I am Sean the sellout, Zittel. The sellout because, like you said, this isn't really championship level boxing or anywhere close to it, but it gets views. And so your boy today, Sean the sellout Zittel, is here to talk some KSI, some Logan Paul, some Dillon Danis. And let's get started on a little bit of a serious note here. DAZN. Hold on one moment, chat, so I can see all your lovely comments here to my left. So I got almost 100 people in the chat. That's nice. We'll take it. But DAZN is fucking up. So let me clean up a little bit. Get professional today. Enough jokes. DAZN is messing up. Yesterday on a live, when talking about Canelo and Crawford and Usyk Dubois and all that stuff going on at championship level boxing, I mentioned how Showtime PBC are on top of the game this year, but still not without criticism. Almost any good fight they put on has to be put on pay-per-view, and I speculated that might be because their network ratings are in the 100,000s, the 200,000s. They're not performing well on Showtime Championship Boxing. And then on the other end, in second place, top-ranked ESPN, they do better network ratings, but you can't give them all the credit for that because ESPN's just one of those networks people have on regardless of what's on the air. So, and Top Rank still is the best at developing prospects. They got the deepest stable of prospects, but unlike PBC, they fail, with the exception of Haney Lomachenko, they fail to deliver at the pay-per-view level. They aren't able to make too many big pay-per-view fights. That's why a lot of their fights are happening in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Shawnee, Oklahoma. So we touched on the criticisms of the top two, PBC, Top Rank, Showtime, ESPN. What the hell is going on with DAZN? Eddie Hearn's original plan to overpay American fighters, the old Citizen Kane, William Randolph Hearst. He comes to each person's desk that were newspaper men, throws down twice as much money as their salary and says, "You work for me now." And that was basically Eddie Hearn DAZN's plan: is let's come in, let's overpay fighters from America, give them 16 cards a show, and the fighters will jump at it because we'll offer them more money than they're currently getting paid. You know, a logical plan, but it didn't work. Eddie underestimated certain things, coming to the United States. The loyalty these fighters had to people like Al Heyman, to Bob Arum and others. So, DAZN its critics used to joke around that it's the dead zone. And I feel a little bad for DAZN because they were snake bitten from the jump. Their first fight was supposed to be Billy Joe Saunders and Boo Boo Andrade. Billy Joe pops positive for a PED. That fight's off. And, that was a bit of an omen for how things would go. Pay-per-view's dead. Now they're doing pay-per-view for a year plus. So, again, PBC Showtime not without criticism. As good a fight, as interesting a fight as Canelo Charlo is, Charlo was supposed to fight the top dog, the top contender in his division, and Canelo the top dog in his division. Charlo Zoo, Canelo Benavidez. Ryan and Tank was a non-title fight. Plant and Benavidez could have been a unification, but they didn't make it then. It winds up being a non-title fight just like Tank and Ryan. Spence and Crawford delivered because Crawford put on an all-time performance, but it was obvious that Spence wasn't quite what he once was in 2018, for example. So, PBC Showtime is on top of boxing right now, but still not without criticism. Like I mentioned, Top Rank, they can't deliver pay-per-view level fights outside of Haney Lomachenko. So they have their criticisms, but they're both blowing DAZN out of the water. And DAZN's had to resort to the circus. And that's what we're talking about today, is a little bit of the circus. It's still fighting, it's still boxing. These guys train, and they train hard in Logan Paul's case. in KSI's case too, and Tommy Fury, you know, is kind of upholding boxing because I think he'll beat KSI, and he already beat Jake Paul. But yeah, man, it's the circus. Here to talk about it for a minute here. And so, where do I start here? We'll start with, I think I had it in my notes here just to make sure. There was three main, oh yeah, I already made, oh, we're good. I already made the main point. But Logan Paul, Dillon Danis, right? Both guys with not a single win between them in professional boxing. But yet our society dictates that they get a lot of attention. I take part in it today by joining in on it. So, hey, go ahead and type sell out in the chat if you like. I welcome that today. So the two go at it. And before we look at what went down today in their press conference, Dillon Danis has been launching one of the all-time trolling assaults we've seen. And we see him sharing tons of photos of Logan Paul's fiancée. Here she is with Leonardo DiCaprio. The man has picture after picture after picture after picture. Hold on. Got a little messy here for a minute. After picture after picture after picture after picture after picture after picture after picture. Shout out to Mike Trout, great ball player. Well, that guy I don't think she slept with. Or him. Maybe them. Shout out to Entourage, Adrian Grenade, Johnny Drama. Shout out to Johnny Drama. Another one. That one's not real. Another one. Even though that the body language says otherwise. Another one. By the way, Dillon Danis is boxing, not the best. And I'll get to who I actually think will win that fight in just a moment. But another one. There's another one. Another one. I think that's Chandler Parsons, who used to play for the Rockets. He was a solid small forward in his day. Nick Cannon, shout out. Another one. There's this. This guy's like, my God. Like, you know, I like hitting it, but Jesus. You guys are starting to get the picture. Another one. And another one. Anyways, you guys get the point. I'll be scrolling all day. This is what Dillon Danis has done. There's another one, a race car driver, and another one. So, basically, this guy has went Tony Harrison on us, like in the Jermell Charlo rematch, and launched one of the all-time verbal assaults. And quickly, I'll make a deeper point. You know, it just kind of shows that in the pursuit of fame and money and all those things, you know, in the Bible it says, what does it gain a man if he gains the whole world but loses his soul? And that's kind of what Dillon Danis is exposing here. I don't take solace in saying that about another man's fiance and everything, but to get deep for a minute, like you guys know I like to, all that money and all that fame, what is it worth? You know, if your woman's been ran through by all of Hollywood and all of that kind of stuff. So I don't want to harp on that too long and talk about the other man's personal life. It's more so that Dillon Danis, and really Logan Paul's a casualty in this point being made. The little ones, the youth, they look up to the social media following. They look up to the clout. You know, good-looking young guy, big muscles, got all the fame in the world, all that stuff. But again, what does it gain a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? What does all that matter if, you know, the partner you're with that you're supposed to be monogamous with and get married with, if, you know, she's been ran through and all that kind of stuff. And to put it in the most contemporary terms, she would appear to be for the streets, not for monogamous marriage. I still wish them all the best. But anyways, Dillon Danis is exposing a deeper point about celebrity and that fame and money aren't everything. You know, what good is all that if your woman isn't truly yours? But anyways, that's a part of this whole thing's outside of boxing for the most part. But we're, you know, but all that said, to take it back to boxing, I think Logan Paul is gonna fuck Dillon Danis up. Dillon Danis is a guy who's had he's had 2 MMA fights. MMA, not boxing. Never fought in a boxing match, amateur or professional. Logan Paul did have an exhibition with Floyd Mayweather. He had an exhibition with KSI, and he had a fully sanctioned professional fight in LA 4 years ago with KSI. He sparred a lot of guys. He sparred some guys in the gym that have real boxing experience. So this trolling stuff from Dillon Danis. This is the high point for him, chat. This is the high point for Dillon Danis. The trolling and talking about his girl and all that, I can appreciate it a little bit because it's exposing something to the youngsters that look up to him that, hey, you know, money and fame and all that is great, but it can't buy you a quality partner, which is something that's priceless, which is something that you can't put money or fame on. But this right here, you know, DiCaprio with her, all this stuff, this is going to be the high point because my man has 0 boxing experience, less boxing experience than Logan Paul. He's 6 foot tall, and he doesn't keep himself in the kind of physical shape Logan Paul does. And Logan Paul, one thing Logan Paul has, he's a good natural athlete. He's athletic. He's bigger than Dillon Danis. Dillon Danis is listed at 6 feet, 170. And his whole background in mixed martial arts is wrestling. Nothing with the hands, nothing there. No Muay Thai, no kickboxing, nothing. Jiu-jitsu. So he's probably going to get fucked up by Logan Paul. So Logan Paul will have his moment of retribution October 14th from Manchester in England. And in the main event is KSI and Tommy Fury. I favor Tommy Fury to win that fight. But Logan Paul has a good jab. And he doesn't throw combinations with the perfect technique or anything, but he's athletic, so his punches aren't slow. And then he's got a good jab. Logan Paul has a good jab. He's not as tough as his brother Jake, I think. I think his brother Jake is more okay with getting hit. Logan Paul doesn't like to get hit. Jake Paul, I think, is more okay with that. He's the better of the 2 brothers, a little bit more of a dog. But, yeah, I think, you know, Logan Paul has a good jab. Dillon Danis has no boxing experience. I expect Logan Paul to make him pay in the ring for all the stuff he's been saying. And then in the main event, KSI and Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury, I expect him to beat KSI, but KSI, you know, is a little explosive in his own right, gets wild. While being wild, he's a little explosive. But Tommy Fury lives and dies off his jab. He beat Jake Paul off the jab alone. The first time Jake Paul had to fight someone who had a jab, he was in trouble. Same thing I think is going to happen to KSI. But although he handled, you know, Logan Paul's jab, who like I said, has a decent jab. But Tommy Fury's is much better. And Tommy Fury, if KSI can start to shoot his right hand over the top of that jab, if he could get past the jab and get into exchanges, maybe he has a chance. Because Tommy Fury looks a little timid himself taking punches. He got dropped by Jake Paul in the last round of their fight. But I expect his jab and his experience and his foot movement to be too much for KSI. And I expect Logan Paul, you know, maybe Dillon Danis has done him a bit of a favor and he should reconsider, you know, his engagement. But I do think he'll have his moment of retribution October 14th, and he'll win this fight. So just wanted to... Donnie Rutler said Logan Paul, natural juice. He's juiced as fuck. It would appear that way. The man is kind of growing... you know, I always get in trouble over this PED talk in boxing, but the man does seem to be growing muscular breasts at this point. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if his piss was dirty as hell. Anyways, that's about that. Just wanted to... I thought, you know what? Eric33 said bunch of goofballs in Hollywood. Exactly. So... you know, just wanted to touch on it. Stay busy. I'm just staying busy. This is a stay busy fight for me right now. It's not that serious. Again, you know, Dillon Danis, background is jiu-jitsu. Never fought in a boxing match, amateur or professional. He's the smaller guy. He's not as good an athlete as Logan Paul and doesn't have any experience like Logan does have. Logan should win that fight. I think he will. That's if the guy even shows up. Apparently, he's pulled out of multiple fights before, and he hasn't even competed in a combat sport since before the pandemic. So we'll see what we get. Again, chat, feel free to type "sellout" in all caps in the chat just for me even speaking on this. It almost would be cathartic for me because just one person in the chat type out in all caps "sellout," so I can just feel a little bit punished for going here. But while we're here, let's look at the brawl breakout, shall we?
Y'all do that, and we get a zoom in on the big. Dylan, you see it? You didn't step up, Logan. Why'd your boyfriend step up for you, huh? Check it out, Dylan. There's you. Camel toe and all.
Guys, let's sit down. Let's sit down, everyone.
We're gonna do something about it.
He's trolling. He's acting tougher than he really is, Dillon Danis. Yeah, he could fold someone like me with no wrestling background into a pretzel. But does he really think he's about to win a boxing match with Logan Paul?
Put your glasses back on.
He's trolling. He's trolling. This is his high moment. Enjoy it, Dillon Danis, because you are definitely putting on an all-time troll. And on a positive note, maybe showing the shorties out there who look up to all the celebrity and fame that that's not everything. It doesn't get you everything. But beyond that, man, I think he's talking a lot of shit that his ass can't cash October 14th in the boxing ring.
Logan, is this like an edible cake?
Just like his body. This is an edible cake. We will be cutting it up.
Thank you, Keith Gordon. Thank you, I'm Sparky.
Passing it around to anyone who wants this like his girl, this like his fiance. Anybody can get in the crowd. Yo, you've been so slow until 9 a.m. in the morning. Rejected your ass to go hook up with
I don't know, man. What cuts deeper? A guy highlighting your fiance sleeping with 50 men or a cake? I gotta score that round to Dillon Danis.
Athletes, you gotta take that shit out on me because my brother hooked up with your ex.
How is that a burn if your brother hooked up with his ex, but everyone hooked up? That's not a little bit of context, Logan. Oh, I might even talk about this, but it's just a little self-awareness there, Logan. That's not exactly a great burn to say your ex-girl got with this one guy when the man has receipts as long as
You're marrying one.
a rookie hazing dinner in the NFL.
Run your mouth all you want.
Corey kicks and jewelry. Thank you, sir.
You ain't ever been with any girl as beautiful as my girl. My superstar's apartment costs more than your entire net worth.
There he is talking about money again. Her apartment costs more. What the fuck does that matter? Like, what does that really matter in looking for a wife? Anyways.
Bro, you resorted to attacking a woman as your fight tactic? No wonder you friends with Conor McGregor. No wonder you friends with Conor McGregor. Where is he, by the way? Where's Coach McGregor, and why would he take my bet? Why would he take my $1 million bet?
Why would you pay that to people for crypto too?
You scammed your audience 20 times.
Look at Tommy Fury for a second here. He's like, man, this makes really good money, but what the fuck am I doing? He's like me right now. He's like, look at Tommy Fury's face, chat. He's like, my God, if these fights weren't so easy and didn't make me so much money. He's like, reality TV was better than this.
My community knows Dillon Danis has scammed his audience on several occasions.
Why did you answer that? Why did you respond? Why did you respond?
Do anything for a couple $1,000, huh? Like mother, like son, I guess.
The same thing with your girl, but you know
Don't get me started on Nikki, bro.
well, let me get started about your dad that used to beat you and Jake. So shut the fuck up.
It's crazy how
You think Jake's not
you are. A woman's past considering your mother's an actual prostitute.
Go on, yeah, just
You gotta be consistent though, Logan. If you're gonna make fun of the man's mom for being a whore, then you have to be a little self-reflective of your situation, brother.
Your dad beat your fucking kid. Your dad didn't beat you.
Boxing analyst says, respect to Sean for covering influencer boxing. Thank you, boxing analyst. You're too kind. I don't know if respect is the word.
You know about Nikki and Tony in the hot tub?
What?
Oh, you don't know.
My dad's name is Tony. Okay, good one. Good one. Yeah.
Okay, so look.
Let maybe release a picture and then you see what happens.
Current student Tony. I don't want to go to Nikki. I don't want to go
The Fury's are the best fights in the world!
Soldier of God, that's pretty much exactly what we're doing on this live. John Fury was like, John Fury eventually just had enough. He's like, basically, this is retarded, so I'm just gonna end it by going full on stupid. Thank you, John Fury, for bringing an end to this. He's like, God damn it, why is all this Logan Paul-Dillon Danis? My son's the main event. My son's the one who beat Jake Paul. My son's the star here. I think that's what John Fury's doing a little bit right there.
John, thank you, John.
I'm a machine. Twisted and why I'm here.
I think that's a fitting end to the press conference, chat. I think that's a fitting end to the press conference. All right. All right. Shout out to John Fury for putting an end to that. And on that note, we will put an end to talking about the Logan Paul, KSI, Dillon Danis, Tommy Fury thing. And I wanted to touch on something I talked about yesterday. Yesterday I was talking about Canelo and Crawford. I can't hold it against those two. That is an excellent, interesting matchup. Crawford moving up 21 pounds and everything. And I said that's the fight that'll draw more, and that's the fight that'll make more legacy, especially on Crawford's end, for both guys, than the fight I'd rather see, which is Crawford versus Ennis at 47 and Benavidez against Canelo at 68. And I mentioned that Canelo deserves a lot more criticism than Crawford would for not fighting Boots, because Boots isn't Benavidez. That hasn't been a fight people have been begging for about 3 years now. Boots has never been world champion. David's been world champion a couple of times. He's the youngest champ at 168 in the division's history. Him and Canelo would sell out Allegiant Stadium. Crawford and Boots isn't the biggest money fight out there for Crawford. It's not the second biggest money fight out there for Crawford. But it's the fight I know is the best fight in the welterweight division, just like Canelo and Benavidez is. And that's why I'd rather see them fight the best fighters in their division. But I slept on it. I came back. I thought about how Crawford... Let me show off the guns here. No, I thought about how Crawford talked about at the Spence press conference in L.A. that after this fight, they'll say that boy is special and that this is the Terrence Crawford era. And when he said that in L.A., I thought to myself, you're a great fighter, Terrence, but this is the Canelo era. And not because he's better than you, but because he's had the opportunities and he's had the activity and gone up the number. You know, he's had better opportunities to face bigger name fighters and thus make his resume and accomplishments even deeper than what Crawford's done, even being two-time undisputed. So I thought that to myself in LA when Crawford... I never doubted he would win that fight, but I did say to myself, it's the Canelo era, Terrence. But Terrence, he's thinking big by going after Canelo. Canelo Crawford would decide whose era it is. So after sleeping on it, that's about as big as it gets, legacy-wise, all that stuff-wise. Still would love to see Crawford and Boots. Still would love to see Canelo and Benavidez, but I do have to concede that a potential Canelo-Crawford fight would determine whose era it is once and for all, Canelo or Crawford. So that's about as high as stakes can get. As a matter of fact, I'll go ahead. My hip-hop heads, I'll do a reference. If Canelo and Crawford fight, we're just going to say that. We're going to say that the stakes are high. We're going to say stakes is high. Canelo Crawford, I propose that this is the tagline of Canelo Crawford. Chat, if you know, you know. But stakes will be high. So, boxing analyst said Sean secretly loves influencer boxing. I do not. But there are times I say to myself, they are boxing. It is a fight. People seem to be interested in it. Let's sell out and just talk about it. So that's what I did today. Flamingos Persona said, contradicting yourself. You can't say Canelo deserves more criticism for Benavidez and then say Canelo has fought better opposition and has done much more in his career. The 2 points are not... What are you talking about, sir? What kind of logic is that? That'd be like saying when Sugar Ray Leonard ducked Aaron Pryor, didn't want to fight Aaron Pryor, that he still didn't fight great opposition. Canelo has still fought Gennady Golovkin, Miguel Cotto, Floyd Mayweather, Dmitry Bivol, Sergey Kovalev, Callum Smith, Caleb Plant, an old washed-up Shane Mosley, Austin Trout, Erislandy Lara, and on and on and on. Billy Joe Saunders when he was undefeated. Canelo, if he never fights Benavidez, it doesn't nullify being a champion in 4 different divisions and beating all the guys. We lost to a few of those guys, but beating all those guys I mentioned, it doesn't work that way. He still has fought better opposition than Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford, we don't even know if he's actually fought a Hall of Famer yet. Canelo's fought multiple Hall of Famers. We'll see. But yeah, just because Canelo isn't wanting to face Benavidez doesn't nullify everything he's done up until this point in his career. That's an asinine thing to say. Yeah. But anyways, what's up, Tay-Day? So, Crawford would get stopped by Munguia, truth be told. Nah, no way. No way. Buckham knows what's up. Stakes are high. De La Soul. Can Bud at least beat Caleb Plant? I know he can out-wrestle him. Don't ask me how I know, but I know he can out-wrestle him for a fact. But yeah. Let's see. Let's see here, but that's about it, guys. I did sleep on it. I was like, me personally, I still rather see Canelo Benavidez and Boots versus Crawford, but Canelo versus Crawford would decide who is the best, whose era it is once and for all. And those stakes are pretty damn high, so if that's the route Crawford wants to go for it, but I spoke my piece on it. Let me see. Benavidez hasn't really done anything great either. Flamingo's persona, no, I hear you. He doesn't have some great resume or anything like that. But he's the youngest titleist in the division's history. Definitely passes the eye test. And he's coming off headlining his first pay-per-view in a fight he won. That drew well. So they all haven't fought anybody until they get the chance to fight somebody. And if all the somebodies keep saying you never fought anybody, then how is the fighter ever supposed to get a chance to fight somebody? So, yeah. If Benavidez beats Canelo, wouldn't people say it was a wash Canelo down the road, says Nate? Maybe they will. You gotta wait and see. You gotta be honest with what your eyes tell you. If Canelo shows up and he's sharp and he looks good, but the younger man beats him that night, he deserves a ton of credit. If he shows up and Canelo looks flat, looks old, then it's fair to call it that. It's not taking credit away. I don't like us making our minds up before fights all the time. Fan bases of different fighters are so quick to be defensive. You're taking credit away from the performance, blah, 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 blah. It wasn't always like that. If this was 25 years ago when Oscar De La Hoya beat Pernell Whitaker and Julio Cesar Chavez, Pernell Whitaker was number 1 pound for pound. Julio Cesar Chavez was the WBC lineal champion at 140. And despite that, everyone said Oscar didn't beat a prime Whitaker and Chavez, but nobody cried back then. No one said, you're taking credit away from Oscar. They're the champion. Why is he old when Oscar fights him? Then fan bases began to be too defensive for their fighters, and now everybody's just ready to not even have that discussion. Like a Crawford fan Errol Spence was undefeated, no excuses, blah, 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 blah. I hear you. He deserves all the credit in the world. Undisputed. Beat an undefeated fighter to become undisputed. But if your two eyeballs see that Spence wasn't the fighter he was against Mikey Garcia or against Lamont Peterson, that's not hating. That's calling it what it is. That's calling the sky blue on a sunny day, So that's how I see it. Weedy Gonzalez says De La Hoya didn't beat Pernell, in my opinion. Weedy, that's how a lot of people feel. I felt like Larry Merchant nailed it that night. That Oscar won because Pernell wasn't able to pull the trigger, made him miss a whole lot, didn't make him pay enough to take the rounds. But I think what Larry said was spot on. Pernell showed that if he gave Oscar these many problems late in his career, he would have beat him in his own prime, like Oscar was in his prime that night. That's the take I agree with. Pernell didn't do enough. He got out-hustled by the younger man. With the crowd going crazy on all the punches. I know Oscar missed 90% of those shots, but he out-hustled Whitaker, and I think Whitaker would have beat De La Hoya 5 years before that. but it is what it is. Pernell versus Floyd. Who do you got, Sean? Asked Dane Sampson. I got Pernell at 35, and I got Floyd at 140 and 147, and at 154. Anything above 35, I favor Floyd, but at 35, I'd favor Pernell Whitaker. 2007 called. They want their hairstyle back, says FaZe. Happy to read your insult, you know. Let you get it in, let you get some shine. So, Inoue, Dane Sampson asked, Inoue versus Morales at 122. Ooh, that's a tough one. I might be a little biased because El Terrible Morales, along with Hopkins, is my favorite fighter ever. But that being said, I don't know. That'd be a great fight. Morales had great punch resistance. So, and then Inoue is more athletic. Inoue is a little bit more special than Morales. I can admit that. But Morales is a lot taller than him. And Morales had great punch resistance. And Morales at 22 had a great jab, great footwork, great feints with the backhand to set things up, great right hand, either over the top or with the uppercut. Could shoot it straight right hand to the body like he knocked out Zaragoza. That's a 50-50 type fight. Inoue, I think, is a little more special than Morales, but Morales is a lot taller than him, longer than him, super skilled in his own right. That would be like a 50-50 type fight, Inoue and Morales. I might give the edge to Morales because I'm a Morales guy. I'm Sparky, said Hopkins is your favorite fighter. Why? He was one of I early in me falling in love with boxing, I saw him beat Trinidad and De La Hoya. I love those pay-per-view broadcasts, and Bernard had the best story. He had a story of redemption. You know, he has an amazing story. For a man to go 5 years in prison, come out, lose his first professional fight, not have any kind of Olympic background, and then go on to become maybe the greatest middleweight of all time. And then the fact that Bernard was the most skilled fighter I ever seen. Floyd Mayweather is right there with him, but I think Bernard was even more skilled than Floyd because he wasn't as gifted as Floyd. He had to make up for that gap in athleticism and gifts that Floyd has with all of this and every little trick in the book he could discover all the way back from the black and white days. And I think Bernard, I don't think there's a single trick in the book Bernard didn't know. And a lot of people think of Bernard as the old man that threw the one right hand at a time and then clinched and slowed the fight down. That was old Bernard in his 40s. Bernard in his 30s, the executioner, was a brilliant inside fighter, would whoop your ass on the inside, box your ears off on the outside, and look nasty while doing it. And Bernard and Morales were fighters. They'll fight anyone, anywhere. They could fight going forward. They could fight going backwards. They could fight on the inside. They could fight on the outside, and they'll fight any man, anywhere. And that they were true fighters to me, Morales and Hopkins. And their charisma was subtle. They didn't have big boyish. Bernard had a good personality, but their skills and what made them special in the ring and what made them special as men was a little more subtle. What made Morales special to me is he beats Pacquiao 4 months after beating Morales, after losing to Barrera. Barrera got destroyed by Pacquiao. He says, give me that man. Give me the man who just beat the man that beat me. Takes him, just beats him in a great fight. And what does Morales do after he wins it? He's just sipping on his water bottle. What a G. Just sipping on his water bottle. Yeah. What's everyone so surprised for? Oh, of course I beat Pacquiao, sipping on his water bottle. Then he asked Larry Merchant, what other fighter is this romantic? This romantic in the ring with the fights they give you. Then he looks at Larry Merchant. He turns southpaw for the 12th round with the fight won against Pacquiao. Gets hit by Pacquiao's best shots. Larry Merchant says, why did you do that when your dad was telling you in the corner, don't do anything stupid? He puts his hands on Larry Merchant's shoulders, goes, did you like that? And Larry says, I love it. That's a performer. That's a guy who doesn't just want to win, and get the check. He wants to please us. He wants to give us a show. And that's special about Morales. Hopkins, not so much wants to give you a show, but he wants to be great. It's about the money. It's about the money with everybody walking this planet. You got to have money to live, like Evander Holyfield said. But it's more than just the money with Bernard Hopkins. It's more than just the money. This sport gave him a new life. It gave him a new lease on life. And I think he looked at legacy the way most fighters look at money. Most fighters will look, how can I squeeze an extra dollar out of it? Bernard was thinking, how do I squeeze a little extra legacy? I've already been the oldest champion of all time at 46. Let me become unified at 49. The man was unified light heavyweight champion at almost 50, beating Beibut Shumanov and Tavoris Cloud. And then at almost 50 years old, he fights Kovalev, a pound-for-pound killer, and goes the distance. Loses every round, but goes the distance. They don't make him like Hopkins no more. I keep talking about I want to see Crawford versus Boots. You know who in that same situation took that kind of fight? Bernard Hopkins against Jermaine Taylor. So that's why Bernard and Morales are my two favorite fighters of all time. Chris Edamwande said, Sean, have you seen Floyd spar in his day? I have. I saw Floyd spar plenty of times. And at his best, because every fighter isn't at their best every time they spar. At his best, Floyd was the best fighter I ever seen up close. I can say that. His skills, his speed, his reflexes, those three things right there. His skills, his speed, and his reflexes, and his vision. You can see everything. Incredible to see up close in the gym. So, yeah, no, Floyd's the best fighter I've seen up close. Bernard's up there. Manny's up there. Chocolatito, Canelo, Terrence Crawford. You know, these are guys that are up there in terms of I've seen them real up close. Guys like Gamboa and Joan Guzman had they were excellent fighters, but never quite got everything out of their potential. Those two guys had all the talent in the world to be mentioned alongside the guys I mentioned. Andre Ward's another one. So yeah. Sean, do you still run miles? Says Dane Sampson. I do. I ran the mile in high school. Got to 4:59 once in my life. Never was able to do it again. But yeah, I still get my miles in. Eric 33 said Larry Merchant don't know shit about boxing. LOL. That's not true. Any man in Larry's position is going to have some takes that don't age well, that are wrong. No one's right 1,000% of the time. But Larry was a poet, man. He was incredible. He started drinking a lot the last 10 years. Got a little slower. Not as sharp as he was in the 90s and early 2000s, but that man's a legend. Love Larry Merchant. Talk to him. My wife said he runs miles in 105 degrees heat with a sweater on. That's the type of man he is. Tell him, sweetie. Tell him. No Other said, it's funny you brought up Bernard Hopkins. He got me into boxing because of how successful he was in boxing at a later age, and I just seen Hopkins versus Tarver last night. Hopkins versus Tarver, people were worried about Hopkins. He was a 3.5 to 1 underdog when he fought Tarver. And it was thought that Tarver was going to put him out. But Hopkins, Mackie Shillstone, good strength program, got up 15 pounds of muscle and beat that ass and looked great doing it. And that fight took Bernard to another level, but he wasn't done yet. Then he beats John Pascal. He drops Joe Calzaghe in the first round, loses a close, very close competitive fight. A fight where I thought the best punches landed were Bernard's right hand, but he got out-hustled down the stretch. I got to understand what the judges saw. But yeah, Bernard was just incredible. Floyd versus Winky Wright. Winky Wright should have let Floyd get the bigger end of the stick back when they negotiated on Boxing Talk in 2005. Boxing Talk, the precursor, the predecessor to FightHype.com, a little bit you could say in spirit. And I think Winky would have won that fight at that time at 154. Floyd was extremely small and didn't. Floyd at that time in the mid 2000s when he fought at welterweight and he fought at junior middleweight, he looked like a blown up 140 pounder. His real natural weight around that time was 140, but after Gotti, all the money was up north, so that's where he went. But Winky Wright was dead set on that being a 50-50 fight at the table. And with Floyd moving up 2 weight classes at the time in 05, Winky should have conceded a bigger part of the purse to Floyd. So I can't say Floyd ducked Winky when he wanted more than 50%. He was the one taking all the risk, moving up 2 weight classes. If it would have happened, I think Winky would have won in 2005, 2006 at 154. He was very big, very fast in his own right, southpaw, great jab. Yeah, but that's all. It's all hypothetical. So. Inoue versus Chocolatito, Raider Reaper at their peaks. I mean, Inoue. I feel bad saying that because Inoue, Chocolatito's been around a lot longer than Inoue. You know, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer in his own right, but Inoue's bigger than him and more athletic than him. Chocolatito's great, but he can only fight one way. Chocolatito's not going to he's not going to counterpunch off the back foot. Chocolatito's going to go forward and put together some of the most beautiful combinations in boxing and all that. I'd have to favor Inoue. But all right, chat. It's been about 40 minutes. We BS'd. We had some fun talking about the Logan Paul stuff, and then we took it to real boxing. We'll probably get out of here in a moment. I'll keep the chat open for another minute or two, see if there's any other fights you guys want discussed. But other than that, I thought I'd just clock in, get used to being a little more busy throughout the week, and have a little fun. What do I think of Pacquiao wanting to train Inoue? I don't think Inoue needs it. Nice of Pacquiao to extend the offer. Inoue is easily the greatest fighter from the continent of Asia since Pacquiao. And, there's nothing racist about including them together. Yes, one is from Japan, one is from the Philippines. 2 different countries. I understand that. But Pacquiao, he loved Bruce Lee. He used to get compared to Bruce Lee by some of his own fans. People would do collages of him next to Bruce Lee. He admired Bruce Lee. He'd sometimes flex like Bruce Lee. And Bruce Lee is Chinese. He's not Filipino. So, it's all Asian power. It's all Asian culture and greatness coming out of great Asian fighters. And I don't think it's racist or a slight to compare Inoue to Pacquiao. It's a compliment. But Inoue doesn't need Pacquiao. I don't think he needs I don't think he needs any of his advice, really. Not that it wouldn't hurt. I mean, it wouldn't hurt, but he doesn't need Pacquiao. 2 different styles. Pacquiao, southpaw, unorthodox, wild, makes it work for him. Inoue's textbook. Inoue is really textbook and clean, and he's orthodox. So I don't think he needs the Pac-Man's advice. But, I mean, if he gives you a phone call, you might as well answer and listen to what he has to say. He's Manny Pacquiao, but he doesn't need it. So, who'd I have in Evander versus Lewis 2, Keith Gordon? Lewis won that fight, but it was a lot closer than the first fight. And kind of like I was talking about with Pernell Whitaker and De La Hoya earlier, where Whitaker didn't do enough to win, but he showed you in his day he would have won. That might be the case with Holyfield Lewis too. Holyfield in that rematch, he won 4 rounds on my card, maybe 5, but he made it a very competitive fight. And the rounds that he lost, he wasn't able, at 37 years old, I think he was for that rematch, he wasn't able to summon the energy he needed and that bounce in his legs. He could only summon it in a couple of rounds, and in the rounds he summoned it, he won those rounds. As great as Lennox is, arguably a top 5 heavyweight that ever lived, Lennox Lewis, I think Holyfield's accomplishments are definitely greater. I think Holyfield's accomplishments are second to only Muhammad Ali. I'm not saying head-to-head he's the second greatest heavyweight ever, but he's the only other 3-time heavyweight champ, I think. Well, lineal 3-time heavy. Other guys have won the belt 3 times, but he was considered the lineal champ all 3 times he did it. Even won the WBA belt a 4th time to make him 4-time heavyweight champion. But I think that Evander, based on what he showed you in the rematch, he might have been able to beat Lennox at his prime, but maybe not. Lennox still might have been too big for him and whatnot. Too big and too good, but there you go. Boots versus Spence, Metal Hendricks. I always favored Boots in that fight, even before the Crawford loss. Spence kind of fighting one way, coming straight at you, hands up high, fundamentally sound. Boots has so much more nuance to his style in that he can counterpunch. He changes, he has more unpredictable offense. He's not just going to be jab, jab, 2 to the body, jab, jab, overhand left. He's going to mix it up. You don't know which stance, which punch is coming when. So I think Boots is faster. He's a better athlete than Spence. I would favor Boots. That's why I kind of always wanted to see Boots fight. I've been campaigning for a couple years to see Boots get a shot at either one of them. Is Boots all flash and not as much substance? The substance still needs to be proven against better opposition. But that flash is a motherfucker. It catches your eyes. That flash is beautiful, and I think there is substance there. It'll only fully be revealed against quality opponents. But I don't think Villa was a bum, and he ran through Villa, and his defense got better as that fight went. He got better as that fight went along with his punch selection, with his accuracy, with his defense. So no, I don't think Boots is all flash, no substance. I don't. I'm high on Boots. I own stock in Jaron Ennis. I'm on the Boots train. So Raul Ramirez said Roy Jones is the most athletically gifted fighter of any era, probably more talented than Floyd. I would agree with that. I think Roy's pound for pound the most gifted athlete in boxing history. Him, Floyd, young Cassius Clay before the Vietnam stuff, to name just a few. And then right now in boxing, I think the most gifted fighters are Inoue and Boots. Tank's pretty gifted too. Even if you favor Shakur over Tank head-to-head, I think Tank's the more gifted fighter. Even though Shakur has a better jab, he doesn't fight in spurts as much as Tank does. Might even have Tank beat in the ring IQ by a little bit. But in terms of the most gifted fighters fighting today, I think that's Inoue, Boots, and Tank, probably. GGG versus Crawford analyst, boxing analyst, and Raider Reaper asking GGG versus Crawford. I feel like you two know boxing too good to ask that question. Not trying to insult you guys, but GGG is basically retired now. Who's banging on their doors to see Triple G fight anybody anymore? I don't even know if he's going to fight anymore. He didn't look good against Canelo the third fight. It's at 160. He has no belt. Why would Crawford fight Triple G at 160 for no belt when he's old, coming off a loss, and there's no belt, there's no nothing there? It's on the Triple G fights on his own. Triple G versus Crawford at 160. I don't know. Crawford. I would pick Crawford. But it's yeah. Crawford is, if anything, is going to go to 68 for Canelo or 54 for Charlo on Showtime. It's not going to go to DAZN to fight Triple G at 160. I don't even know if Triple G is going to fight anymore. So, but you know I love y'all, so I got to answer it. Bronco Kid said, "What's good, Zittel? Been meaning to ask the wife how's the bun in the oven doing." Yeah, my wife is pregnant, second baby on the way, and it is a girl, and I will be naming her Sophia. I don't know about the middle name. I like Sophia Annabella Zittel, but my wife isn't sold on Annabella yet, so Sophia's for sure. Sophia Zittel. We don't know about the middle name yet, but thank you for asking. Boxing analyst saying Zerto versus Joe Smith at 190. I'm riding with Smith. It's confirmed. Yeah, that's a good fight. Both guys, no momentum right now, coming off losses. Smith's a better puncher. Zerto has better skills. I'm going to favor Zerto. Zerto is still a big guy, not easy to knock out at light heavyweight. I'm going to give the edge to Zerto. I think at their best, when they were both having momentum, I think Zerto was the more skilled fighter. And skills pay the bills unless you can knock the guy out. Zerto's a tough, big Mexican guy. It's hard to knock out. I think Zerto can hold up to the power. And when they've both been performing at their best, Zerto's a more skillful guy in the southpaw stance. I'll give the edge to Zerto. Thank you guys for the congratulations. I appreciate it. Thank you guys. Appreciate that. Prophet Bobbity. Shout out to Dragon Ball Z. Prophet Bobbity said, does Haney have potential to be one of the greats? Absolutely. I think so. I think he's well on his way. The pace he's on right now is pretty fantastic. That Lomachenko fight was very close. Could have went either way. But he did get the win against a future Hall of Famer at 24. So at 24 years old, Devin Haney holds wins over good veterans like Linares, like Jojo Diaz. At 24, he's been undisputed champion. And at 24, he owns a win, a very close fight, but he owns a win over a future Hall of Famer in Lomachenko. He's done really, really well for himself thus far at 24 years old. Especially in today's era where, look at Crawford. He wasn't able to get that real defining fight until 35, almost 36 years old. It's a lot harder to get in quality fights at a younger age right now because we're in the marination era. We're in the fight once or twice a year era. And that makes it harder to be like Morales or Canelo or Mayweather and already kind of have a Hall of Fame resume by the time you're 25 years old. Already have accomplished something really worthwhile at your age. And Haney's done that already. So I think Haney's going to beat Prograis. I think that Haney's going to beat Prograis. At that moment, he'll be a 2-division champion, WBC in both. And Regis Prograis will be another excellent win added to a young man's resume. So I did score the Loma fight for Loma, 115-113. So I don't want to make it seem like I'm just all just pro Devin Haney, but objectively speaking, he's done great for himself at such an early stage in his career. And if he continues on his pace, he's going to definitely be one of the greatest fighters of this upcoming generation and make the Hall of Fame. So I think Haney will win titles from 35 to 54. So we'll see. Do you have Tank beating Crawford? No. Tank's short arms, smaller guy, doesn't throw a lot of punches, and fighting Crawford with longer arms, better jab, better counterpuncher. Tank's a good counterpuncher, but Crawford's better. Crawford's the best at counterpunching right now. I would definitely favor Crawford. Naturally bigger guy, longer arms, better counterpuncher, throws more punches per round, and has a better jab. I would definitely favor Crawford. Raider Reaper said, is it true that boxing sanctions are blocking Bivol versus Beterbiev because they're Russian? I do, yeah, the WBC is having a problem wanting to sanction that fight, and it's like, hey man, Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol can't help what countries they were born in. Let that shit go. Let them fight for undisputed. And Top Rank and Matchroom are dragging their feet making that happen. You know, PBC got the criticism for freezing out Terrence Crawford all those years and it taking so long to make the Crawford fight. Got to keep the same energy for Matchroom and Top Rank when they're not delivering the undisputed fight. They don't even have the excuse anymore of, well, Bivol's got a huge fight with Canelo. Obviously, that takes precedent. Like Fury and Ngannou takes precedent over Usyk. Money talks, right? But that fight's off the table for Bivol now. I know Beterbiev has to handle his business with Callum Smith, and that's not a bad fight. But we got to hold their feet to the fire a little bit more. Bivol, Beterbiev, and their promoters, because they haven't made that fight yet, and there's no other fight to be made at 175. So I favor Bivol in that fight. And the WBC has to stop tripping and let them do what they got to do. Who do you think would have won if Donaire and Casemiro fought, Sean? I think Donaire would have won that. Not now. Not the Donaire that lost this last fight to Santiago. Not the Donaire post the brutal knockout loss to Inoue. But the Donaire who beat up Nordino Bali for the WBC that night, the guy who fought that night, I think he would have beat John Ryle Casemiro. Is Big Baby as good of a prospect as AJ was? Good question, Chris. I'm going to overall say right now no, because AJ won the gold medal. That gives you that immediately is like, okay, this is a real prospect. He won the gold medal, and he was delivering really sensational knockouts. Anderson's delivering really good knockouts, but Anthony Joshua was moved quickly. He fought guys like Chisora and Dillian White quickly. You know, real legit opposition, and he succeeded. He won by knockout. Won all his early fights by knockout, and then he fought Charles Martin. He was further along in his development than Jared Anderson was fighting Charles Martin, but he took Charles Martin out in 2 rounds. Jared Anderson went the full 12. Different, earlier stage of development than Joshua was. But Joshua, up until the Klitschko fight, was super impressive. You looked at him and you saw this 6'6" Adonis throwing combinations, and he wasn't slow. Joshua wasn't as fast as Fury or Wilder, but he wasn't slow. At that time, go back and check the tape, he wasn't looking that stiff. His uppercuts and his hooks especially were beautiful. He was exploding with them, and he won the gold medal. So at this stage right now, AJ was a better prospect than Jared, but I think Jared is much more fluid than AJ ever was. Much more fluid. He's fluid like a middleweight. So, but AJ was very, very fundamentally sound, and Jared Anderson pulls out with his chin up. AJ just doesn't have a whole lot of sauce on defense. He's stiff with the upper body movement, but he always kept his hands up very well. So AJ was a little more fundamentally sound in some areas than Big Baby Anderson. Anderson has a better jab than AJ ever had. He has a better jab. He can switch stances. He's more fluid, but he's not as fundamentally sound, and he's not quite the knockout artist, and he's not as big, and he doesn't have the Olympic gold medal background that AJ has. So good question. I appreciate the question, Chris. That's just me keeping it real. Keith Gordon said, I hope your channel keeps finding my phone. You got smooth energy and the chat is awesome. Good stuff, Sean. Thank you, Keith Gordon. Thanks, guys. Thanks to all 75 of you still sticking around. I understand we didn't have a big audience. Most of our fan base could give a shit about Logan Paul and Dillon Danis. So that's why I joked around that we're doing the sellout chat today. But I had fun. Do I think Tank would be a more difficult fight than Errol was? Well, it's not. There's no way to really be less competitive than he was, but maybe he'll be a little more. You can't be less competitive than Errol was on the 29th. So maybe, but same fate. Crawford stops him. So AJ has never fought Chisora, Metal Box. Thank you. I don't know where I got that from, Metal Box. Thank you, Metal Box. Metal Box to repeat. You assume. You make an ass out of yourself when you assume. So I don't know why I thought he fought Chisora, but no, he didn't. You're right. I mean, we'll box wreck it just to make sure, but I believe you're right. He didn't. I assumed he did. For some reason. Because everyone else, he's like the only one who hasn't, if that's the case. But he fought Dillian White early on. That was an excellent fight. Got hurt in that fight. Knocked him out later on. Yeah, no Chisora. All right, good looking out. Good looking out, Metal Box. That's why we got a smart chat in our chat. Yeah, I'm tripping. He didn't fight Derek Chisora. So, okay, so in 15... So what age was he at? Okay, he's 33 now in 2023. He's 25 when he fought Dillian White and when he fought Charles Martin. So, again, like he's further along in his development than Jared Anderson was. And those 2 or 3 years are huge at that stage in your career. But I still got to give the edge to AJ thus far. Can Ryan Garcia ever beat Davis at 140? No, I don't think so. Ryan, there's a big gulf in skills there that Ryan has to make up for. Ryan genuinely didn't know he was making mistakes in that first 2 rounds. I said on these lives over and over and over again, if Ryan doesn't reach... If he doesn't reach for power shots early, if he just takes what the defense gives him, Tank is essentially giving you rounds on a silver platter in the first half of the fight. Don't go crazy and throw a whole bunch of punches and give up your height to get countered. It's exactly what he did. And if I knew that, then he should have known that, you know? So, nah, he can't. If he fought Tank at 140, he would be bigger and stronger. It would have helped his chances, but he's not beating Tank. There's just too much of a gulf in skills and smarts right now. Ryan has a lot of learning to do. So, why is Tony Bellew considered the worst commentator in boxing? I don't know. I'm too busy doing our own round by round. I'm either doing the round by round if I'm at home, and if I'm not at home, I'm literally at the fight. So I don't hear anyone's commentary for the most part anymore. But Tony Bellew was a pretty good cruiserweight. He was pretty good. He's pretty good. He put up a good fight with Usyk, too, up until the end. So, how do I feel about the 17-year-old prodigy Mayweather's got? Says James Yates. Kermel Morton, he's the future. I have no doubt he'll be a world champion. Kermel Morton and Jamal Harvey are my 2 favorite amateurs right now. Guys who have yet to turn pro. Jamal Harvey, Kermel Morton. I think they're both big time in the future. So... Ryan came out like a madman. That's why he got KO'd. You're kind of right, Eric33. He landed his right. He won the first round. Second round, he lands his right hand, and he goes nuts. He starts throwing a whole bunch of combinations, gives up his height, and Tank, literally, without even keeping his eyes on the target, just comes up and places the counter and drops him. And the fight was over at that point. Ryan was shook after that. Didn't fight with the same confidence and got stopped to the body. But other than that, chat, I think that's about it. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. Everyone have a great rest of the day. Wasn't the most important talk we had, but want to get on these lives a little bit more during the week and not just wait until Monday to discuss everything. So everyone, thanks for joining the chat. Have a good one. I'll see everybody Saturday afternoon to do a round by round for Usyk and Daniel Dubois. And then later that night, I'll hop back on to watch Jared Big Baby Anderson and some of those excellent top-ranked prospects like Abdullah Mason and others. So thank you guys so much for being here, and have a great rest of the day. God bless.